Good morning and welcome to the George household. Clearly, I'm filming this in the evening on Saturday night, and I am so sorry that we can't be together in our sanctuary. We've now missed for 2 weeks because of winter weather, which is a rather strange occurrence here in Atlanta, but we look forward to being back together in our sanctuary space next week. But I thank you so much for taking the time to stream this morning. And I don't want to offer a full sermon, but I do want to just take some time for us to reflect together, to learn a little bit before you get back outside to maybe enjoy a little bit of snow or stay inside to enjoy some warm coffee or hot chocolate. Whatever you do, we hope that you do stay safe and stay warm during this time. The Reverend Dr. Kelly Kirksey is the newly appointed pastor at Fernwood Baptist Church, which is located in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I am also proud to tell you that she is my sister. And some of you may know, but many of you may not know, Kelly reads every one of my sermons before I preach them on a given Sunday morning. And so if you think that these sermons are good, she should get all of the credit for that. And if you think the sermons are terrible, be glad she reads them, because they would be so much worse without her help. But I am forever thankful for the help that she has provided for me and the way she inspires me as a minister. And I wanted to mention her today because my reflection today is really inspired by words that she shared a few weeks ago at Fernwood. We are in this season of Epiphany. This is the season after Christmas, and Epiphany begins on the first Sunday of January when we at Smoke Rise celebrated the coming of the Magi, bringing gifts to the Christ child. Today, as we continue in this season of Epiphany, there's really only one question that I want us to ask together. What is the most precious gift that you can give to someone? I would actually argue that this gift is more precious than the gifts the Magi brought, the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh. I recently read an article in a business journal. It's a journal written for business leaders, and the article was about our most valuable asset. What do you think it is? If your answer was time, you're in good company, because before reading this article, I would have said time. There's no doubt. It is limited, not limitless, and whether you're rich or poor, whether you're young or old, you have 24 hours in any given day. That's all. And once those hours are spent, they can't be returned to you. We can't gain the hours that we spent yesterday. We can only be intentional about the hours that we will invest tomorrow. I would have thought the most precious asset, our most precious resource, our valuable, would be time. But this article begins, in today's complex and demanding workplaces, an organization's most valuable asset is no longer people's time. It's their attention. And the battle for people's attention is intense. From morning to night, we are assaulted by a barrage of advertisements and emails and text messages, social media streaming at us with reels. We're receiving phone calls, We're being encouraged to watch different news media outlets, and all of these things that are so loud in our world, all of them want one thing: our attention. And we give it. Each time that we choose to watch CNN or Fox or MSNBC, we give it. Each time we choose to scroll and to watch reel after reel, to like a post, to subscribe to a podcaster, we are really giving our attention. In fact, I would argue that the purpose of YouTube, the purpose of Pinterest, of Instagram, the purpose is to get, to gain, and to keep your attention. So what if your attention is not only your most valuable resource or asset? What if this is the most precious gift that you can give to someone? See, in our world, it's actually easy to share space, to share time, without giving someone the gift of your attention. It was just a few weeks ago, when the weather was a little better than it is right now, that my family and I went to a new Mexican restaurant that's located not far from our home, and we were seated and given our menus, and at the table right beside us was another family of 5. And as I looked over at this family that was sharing this space, this place, I noticed that all 5 members of the family were looking down at their smartphones. Not a single word was being spoken or communicated with each other. Actually, the waitress came to the table and interrupted them, caused them to look up from their smartphones so that they could place their order. It was a quiet table, which was convenient for our family to be next to. They were sharing space and time. They were giving their attention to something, but not to someone, not to each other. To give someone your attention, you have to be present, fully present in that place and in that moment. And it's easy in our world to get distracted. Sometimes it's hard to be present, to live in the present moment, because we're distracted by the past, and we're always celebrating something that happened long ago, or regretting something we didn't do. Sometimes it's because we're distracted by the future, because we're so concerned about or worried about something that's uncertain in the future. I remember at that same meal, we were sitting at the table and we placed our order, and right after we brought the food, before a topic of conversation could even come up, Emma Pearl, after taking 2 bites, looked at my wife and I and said, "Where are we going to eat for dinner?" I said, "What? We just sat down for lunch. We haven't even finished our meals." She was thinking already about what was next. And I remember that experience with Emma Pearl, but if we're not careful, all of us fall into this trap. We think about what we're going to do the next hour or the next day. We think about our next project, or we think about our next vacation. We think about our next doctor's visit. We tend to look ahead, and that prevents us from living in this moment and sharing this moment and giving someone else the gift of our attention. We've all seen it before at a restaurant, I suspect, when a son or daughter is looking over mom or dad's shoulder at something that's on the television, or a husband or wife is looking over their spouse's shoulder at the football game or the basketball game, and suddenly they're no longer in the same conversation. Their attention is focused elsewhere. And if you haven't seen it, you're welcome to come to a restaurant where we're sitting, because this is something that I struggle with often. Focusing and giving the gift of my attention to those who are most important to me. On Saturday, before much of the snow had fallen, I learned that one of our church members, Leona Goen, had been taken to the hospital. She had fallen in her home, and when they found out about the fall, they took her over to the hospital. And when I learned that she was there, I decided that the roads were not bad, and I would go and spend some time with her. And when I got to that room, what I found there, waiting for me, was a gift. Leona gave me the precious gift of her attention for 30 minutes. We talked about her family, and she asked about my family. We talked about the things she loved. She loves puzzles. And I don't mean these 25 and 50 piece puzzles. They're a minimum of 1,000 pieces, and she can spend days or even weeks on a single puzzle. We talked about the past, and we talked about the present. We talked about her going home from the hospital, but we were just talking to each other, and the amazing thing, she wasn't distracted. Not even for a moment. She didn't say, I need to turn on the television, or I need to think about something else. She gave to me the gift of her attention for those 30 minutes. And when I walked out of that room after praying with her, I realized I have been the recipient of something sacred. She gave me the most precious gift that she could give to me. You can give your attention in all sorts of different ways. Certainly you can give it in person in that way, but as the weather's bad today, you may not be able to get out of your house. You can give the gift of your attention by making a phone call to someone. Maybe someone you talk with frequently, maybe someone you haven't talked to in a long time, and you give someone the gift of your attention in 5 minutes or 15 minutes or a 50-minute phone call. You can give someone the gift of your attention by sending a text message and waiting for their reply and engaging in electronic communications in that way, having a conversation, and in the course of it you realize they're giving me their attention, and I'm giving them my attention as well. For some it may sound outdated, but there's nothing better, I think, than getting a card from someone in the mail. Because whenever you receive that card, you know someone stopped what they were doing and they thought of me. And they took time to write this letter to me. And they gave me in that process the gift of their attention. You can do the same with an email. Just following up with someone, you're on my mind, I was thinking about you today, and I just wanted you to know. Giving your attention, that precious gift, it's not going to happen accidentally. There are far too many distractions in our world. It's got to be intentional. Something will gain our attention. But if we want it to be those things that we hold dear, family and friends, people that we encounter, it's not going to happen accidentally. It's going to require us to intentionally stop and give and focus. The scripture reading for our sermon today is from John chapter 4, verses 1 through 42. And I hope you get comfortable as I suspect at this point in the reflection, the children are about ready to go outside and see if the snow has melted yet. And even the adults are probably ready for a refresher on their coffee or a cup of hot chocolate. So we won't read all 42 verses of John 4, but I encourage you to do it if you have time today. It is the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman. And when you read this story, remember, these are two people who were never really meant to encounter each other, to have this conversation. Samaritans were outsiders. Samaritans and Jews were very different religiously, ethnically. They consider themselves two different people groups that rarely interacted with one another. And that's what makes this story so amazing, that Jesus stops to engage in this conversation, not with a close friend or family member, but with a stranger there. And they talk about water. They are at a well. And they talk about worship. But as you read through it, what I want you to notice today is that they talk for 42 verses. It is the longest encounter and conversation that Jesus shares with anyone in John's gospel. And as you read it, think about it in this light. Jesus gave the gift of his attention to this Samaritan woman for 42 verses. Jesus could have said, I have more important things to do. I've got to teach my disciples. I've got to preach. I've got to heal. But Jesus stopped and gave the gift of his attention to this woman for 42 verses. And at the same time, the Samaritan woman gave the gift of her attention to Jesus. She could have walked away. She could have said, I'm too busy for this. She could have said this was awkward or uncomfortable, but she gave the gift of her attention to Jesus for 42 verses. And at the end of the story, you discover that somewhere along the way, she found salvation. And it wouldn't have happened if Jesus didn't give the gift of his attention and the Samaritan woman didn't give the gift of her attention. This year, I want to encourage you, give the gift, the precious gift of your attention to others. It may be at home. Sometimes those we overlook most are those that we live with and see most often. It may be at work. If you're a student, it may be at school. It may be at church. It may be a family member. It may be a friend. It may be, like in the story of the Samaritan woman, it may be a stranger. But give to someone each day the gift of your attention. Remember, it won't happen accidentally. It will require intentionality. So think about and intentionally seek the opportunity to give someone the gift of your attention. I also remember that Jesus gave his attention not only to the Samaritan woman, but over and over again in the Gospels, after Jesus has been teaching or preaching, after Jesus has been helping and healing, Jesus would awake early in the morning and go away by himself. And the disciples normally would be confused where he'd gone, but Jesus went to be by himself to take the time to pray, because Jesus made it a priority to give his attention to God and in prayer to receive God's attention for him. That really is prayer at its very best. Intentional, attentive. It's only February. I think we can still make New Year's resolutions. And I want you to know my resolution in this new year is to be attentive, to give the precious gift of my attention to others, those who are most near and dear to me, to those who I encounter each day, to make it a priority to give the precious gift of my attention to God and to receive the precious gifts of God's attention. If we do this, if we make giving our attention a priority, in this new year, it's going to be a good year indeed, whatever the weather.